So let me be very clear. I am not a personal trainer. I've lifted for a long period of time. So a lot of what I know is just off of my own experience. Take a little bit what I say with a grain of salt. At least non-Overwatch matters. Strength training is not the same as hypertrophy training. Hypertrophy training is all about burning the muscles, tearing them up, causing damage. Strength training is about putting as much weight on the bar or on the dumbbell and lifting it up. And what matters with strength training is something called volume. Okay, so where is our little, I want to get off of text here. Yeah, okay. So what matters is volume, okay? Volume. And volume is simply weight times reps. And then times sets, obviously, right? Times sets. So in other words, if I want to get stronger, I need to lift heavy, and I need to lift heavy often, and I need to lift heavy for many sets. Yeah, I need to make sure this is an X. Weight plus, like I should do, this is another X as well. You get what I'm saying, okay? The danger with noobs when it comes to strength training, if they're training for strength, chat, not necessarily for muscle growth, just for strength, is that they're going to put on 100 pounds on the bar, let's just say. It doesn't really matter what the lift is. And they're going to go to failure. In other words, they are going to lift that bar as many times as they can, over and over and over and over and over again, until they can't lift it anymore. They literally can't do it a single. Let's say they do 8 repetitions, right? Now, this is the problem with training to failure for strength training. Now, not many of you guys may lift in chat, but this is actually really important to understand tanking in Overwatch. If I were to go for as many repetitions as I possibly can, let's say it's 8, and I couldn't do a single one more, and then I were to rest for, let's say, 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, okay? And I were to do the exact same thing again, how many reps do you think I could get the second time? This is the really important question. What do you guys think? 6? Usually. Less? Yeah. Not 8 again, for certain. Now, if you're a new lifter, a brand new lifter, a lot of times brand new lifters often don't have like they can't really go to failure. They struggle with that. So like, let's just say that you're more of an experienced lifter. Okay, so it definitely depends on the experience of a lifter. Better lifters can push to that max better. Same thing with experienced sprinters, right? So like, let's say you go literally as hard as you can, and you really do push yourself to the limit. This will be 6 or 5 or even 4. And again, you go to failure. And chat, you see where this is going? Third set, where do you think we're getting? Fourth set, where do you think we're going? Do you see? And what ends up happening is you gas yourself out. You gas yourself out. You run out of gas in the tank. And then what ends up happening is, remember, volume is what matters. So if you get 8 reps here, 5 reps here, 4 reps here, and then 3, and you've only done 4 sets, 13, 17, 20. 20 reps total. Effort doesn't matter that much. It's the volume. So, 20 reps. Now, let's reimagine the situation with somebody that knows a little bit better of what they're doing. They're a little bit smarter. So instead of going to failure, they go close to failure. Close to failure. And what might that look like, chat? What might that look like? Not 8 reps. Maybe 6. Next set. Do you know what you could do in the next set? Aiming again for close to failure. 6. Next set. 6. Next set. 6. Now this one, they would get gradually harder, but you could do 6. And maybe on your last set, you max out, right? Maybe you push to 7, or that last 6 is really hard. Do you see? Now if we add up the reps here, 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Now think about this. If you're training for raw strength, you oftentimes do not go to failure, especially early in the set, because you want to maintain, you don't want to peak, because when you cross a certain threshold, you trash yourself to the point to where you're not able to push yourself hard enough for the rest of the workout, and you lose raw volume. Now, congratulations, you guys hopefully learned a little something about strength training. Okay? Now, the real question is, why the heck does this matter? Where this is an Overwatch educational stream. So then, why does this matter? It's actually a very, very important question. And I want you to look back at the title and tell me why it matters, as I tediously erase when I really could just be brushing. No. Can I do this? No, what? Color, I guess I have to change color 1. That's annoying. I'm not gonna even try. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I want you guys to think about it. So here's a question for tank. If you're playing tank, what is your job? And I'm not making really a differentiation between off tank or main tank here. Just give me the easy, the Spark Notes version of what a tank actually does, as I, again, tediously make space here. You create space, right? Wait, what? Why did it undo everything? Okay, we're just gonna start with the new one. Okay. You create space. If I'm Winston and I jump heavily, hard, kill into the middle of the enemy backline, every single time, I play 100% to create as much space as I possibly can, as much threat as I possibly can right now. What's the problem? Do you see what I'm saying? You're going to max out and you're going to die. Now, will you create a lot of space? Yes. But tanking in Overwatch is a lot like volume in lifting. It's about what is the most weight I can lift, the most space I can create without dying, so I can do it for multiple sets. Do you see? The risk is that if you go too hard, then there will be no multiple sets. It will be one big burst of pressure, and then that's it. And unlike lifting, if you go to failure as tank on your first dive, there will be no second set. There will be no third set. There will be no fourth set. It will be one and done. And even if you get 12 reps of space, what is better, 12 reps of space or 9 reps times 2. Do you see? If I'm Winston, and instead of immediately always jumping backline, instead I jump onto a high ground and then drop onto backline afterwards in a way that I can bubble dance and then have my jump sooner to disengage, I create almost as much space, 80% as much space as that initial jump, 80% as much initial, and by space I mean threat. They're all scared, they're all looking at me, right? But I also don't die. And so what does that mean? I get healed up, and I could do that 80% again. And maybe this time they're low, so I go in a little bit aggressively. Maybe that 80% becomes 85% because I'm pretty confident that I can get the kill. And overall, the volume is higher. Now, this applies to every single tank. Because with exactly D.Va DM, why D.Va is so strong right now is because D.Va right now can do something close to like 90-something% and not die. She can go in hyper aggressive, use all of her cooldowns, all of her resources, and the nature of her kit allows her to just get out and do it again. Even something like a Sigma, you guys saw us reviewing the Sigma earlier. Would you want to use your shift aggressively, shield push, spam, go in there? Or would you play more patiently, go space to space to space to space to space to space, 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle, 4 cycle, 5 cycle, and every single time you're getting more space, you're doing more, you're doing more, you're doing more. Maybe you're only like 65%, but that's multiplied times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly the empty sky. It's always about knowing the situation and deciding what is the most aggression, what is the most greed, what is the most pressure that I can put out without dying or losing all of my resources unnecessarily. When you die, you messed up. It doesn't necessarily mean you played too aggressively, but you went too hard in one way, shape, or form. And this applies to every tank. Because the other risk is that you're playing with a Winston that watches this video and is now scared to jump backline because he says Coach Spilo says never to go jump backline because you're going to die. So what does the Winston do? He jumps frontline and he places his bubble defensively. And then guess what his pressure value is? It's not 80%, it's not 100%, it's 30%. But he could do it again, right? He survives. So he gets another 30%. And he does it again for another 30%, right? And you're like, surely this is where the analogy breaks apart, right? Because you could just, but this is the problem. By the time he's on his third cooldown cycle, that third bubble, 30 seconds into the fight might already have been lost. The fight might already be over. So the Winston that actively fed for 100% value and died over the course of the team fight did more than the Winston that played safe for 3 cooldown cycles. Do you see that? So playing too passively and going for multiple cycles isn't the answer either. You have to find the aggression level where you can push the aggression to the very brink, but you don't die. That's what we call stress testing. That's what we call getting underneath the bar and squatting as heavy as you possibly can until you go to failure, and then now you know what your failure is, so the next time you train, you know approximately how to dance around it and how to push yourself, but not how to push that breaking point that's going to hurt your volume. That's called stress testing, chat. That's called learning. You don't even realize that you're doing it, but you're doing it every game. When you go as a flank as Zenyatta and you go, oh, that was too much. That was too much. That's a little bit of negative reinforcement about that level of aggression. Same thing with Winston. Every time a Winston jumps in and dies, gets nuked by the enemy backline, if that Winston is smart, they're learning, okay, that level of aggression and that point, that was 100%, that was too much. Or the way I did it was wrong. Maybe my form was bad. But this is what tanking is all about in Overwatch. It's about pushing, and really every hero, but especially tanking, it's about pushing that percentage as close to 100% without ever breaching 100%. And what makes tanking hard is 100% looks different in every circumstance, right? 100% versus a comp that counters you looks different than 100% versus a comp that doesn't counter you. 100% on a map that is very good for Winston is different from 100% that is a map that's very bad for Winston. So your goal, guys, is you as a tank, you want to be creating as much space, putting out as much pressure as you possibly can without dying or without absorbing a lot of cooldowns, right? Because if you take every single healing resource in the game and every single cooldown in the game, theoretically, you could bump this 100% to 130%, you know? But then what you've actually done is you've made that Mercy, who wants to right-click her DPS, go from 90% value to 70% value or 60% value because she has to pocket her tank instead of pocketing her DPS. So do you kind of see what I'm saying? You could steal percentages from other members of your team. I know this is a little bit dry and a little bit abstract, but that's a way of thinking about tanking in a way that if you are pushing it and breaking that breaking point, you're going to get punished. But that is how you learn. So I'm not saying don't push 100%, but push 100% with the intention of using that as feedback to learn and then do better next time. Does that make sense?